Well, it seems technology would like me to speak instead of show you something. So here goes my 12 hours of work for you. Well, thank you so much. At this end of this long day, I would have just a few thoughts to share with you. Now khichdi should be over. It is banned. They are not listening. Dawat is also banned. So just take it easy. Relax. Now, what is wrong with khichdi, man? I like khichdi. Okay, so I was explaining that people, instead of working, they were just depending on the state to feed them, and that's why it was banned. So Gujarati wants to people to work, it seems. I have just few thoughts. Today is August 9th, and about 70 years ago, exactly 70 years ago on August 9th, America bombed Hiroshima and then Nagasaki. 250,000 people died. And those who survived were in miserable situation. If I have slides, I'll show you of a boy who was 16-year-old at that time. Now he's 6 years old. He was kind enough and honorable enough to take his shirt down to show the world that even after 70 years, how his body looks from the front and the back. Just Google it. I think independent newspaper in UK has published that. And that were just 2 bombs. Now there are 15,600 bombs like that out there. And bombs which India and Pakistan have, about 250 or whatever number they say, may God forbid. May the neighbors and the citizens are powerful enough to save themselves or the humanity, but if those 200-300 bombs are used by these 2 countries, 20 million people will die instantaneously, and 2 billion people will die eventually. It covers not only Pakistan and India, but lot of other areas in Asia. So my dear sisters and brothers, today being the 70th anniversary of that horrible event, I like to take a moment of silence in the memory of those, and another moment of silence in prayer that we will be the people who will stand up and prevent future disaster. Please be seated. Now the nationalism which gave rise to has also another machine, which is called dehumanizing human beings. Japan, those who know history here know that Japan was ready to surrender at that moment when those bombs were inflicted. They were ready to sign anything. So all the Japanese Americans were put to the detention camps, and then these bombs were unleashed. Hate, violence, and war are 3 connected things. These are connected evils. It starts with hate, dehumanizing that other person because of the color, because of the skin color, or because of the faith, or because of different origins, or because this is who is old, whatever is the reasoning, first people are started to becoming desensitized towards other human beings. When first time I visited, I happened to give a lecture in Berlin a few years ago, and I asked, is there a concentration camp close by so I can go and come back in the same day? And I found out one and visited just few minutes before they were about to close. While wandering in those empty blocks and looking at things, I asked myself, why? How human beings can do such a things to other human beings? Just kept thinking. But until I visited the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., it didn't dawn upon me the connection that Jews in Germany at that time for several years went through the dehumanization, that they are the evil of everything. They eat children, they eat blood, and they kill Jesus and all sort of stuff lumped into the one, when human beings were no longer considered human being. It became easy for a whole lot of good Germans to ignore what their government and the military was doing to those people. So dehumanization and hate comes first. Then it very easily becomes functional. There is a whole lot of research is being done, and this all is going to be a theme under the reclaiming the heart of our humanity, a one sub-theme and one sub-plenary in which 10,000 people will sit and listen to top scholars in this area of hate, violence, and war, that how these things are connected and what people can do to prevent these type of disasters. So this was one of the points which I wanted to share with you. So all of you who are good, and you should be good in condemning terrorism, whether it's inflicted by Muslims or Hindus or Christians or Sikhs or anybody. But you need to watch out before terrorism comes. You need to be worried about what are the things, how hate takes people to the extreme of the thing. But at the same time, you need to pay attention to how war is connected. So United States after 9/11 was quite concerned about suicide bombing and hate and suicide bombing and terrorism. So they commissioned a person who I recently found out was my class fellow at the University of Chicago. But I didn't know him at that time, and he didn't know me. I was just buying his book, and he was signing for me when we figured out that we were actually class fellows. So they gave a lot of money to him, and he hired a lot of scholars. And his book is printed. It's called Cutting the Fuse of Suicide Bombing. Not in the way Bollywood does, but very thoroughly researched work. And he says how terrorism, and one of his findings is terrorism has nothing to do with any religions. Remember the Tamil Tiger were using against Buddhists in Sri Lanka, and Japanese kamikaze pilot and all of that. He says this is connected more with politics. Of course, his funding from the Defense Department ended after this finding, but he continues to be a major scholar, and he is going to be a keynote speaker on that. So this was the one point I like to share with you. Because if we are going to reclaim heart of our humanity, first we are owning the humanity. It is our humanity. Once we own our humanity, we become part of it. We cannot dehumanize the other because it will dehumanize me. It is common humanity. Then reclaiming, meaning it is at risk. It is at the risk of secular nationalism, which goes in extreme. It is at the risk of money-making armament people. Somebody has a photo in Europe, and they have photo of all these ISIS people with their strange attitude and guns. And what they have done is they have pointed out arrow where this gun comes from, where this gun comes from. It turned out all those guns were coming from the Western Europe or America. How? You're bombing from the above and giving them something to kill you first? What type of game is that? So people of peace are smart people. They need to be thinking smart. That this whole industry of creating and funding and armies and things like that, they in a way contribute to disruption of the society through the same arms which they are trying to sell. We need to be wise enough, we need to be smart enough. Second point I like to share with you is that hate is towards everyone. In America, last 1 month, 10 churches have been burned down. These churches belong to black people, African American. In last 10 years, more than 100 temples, gurdwaras, and mosques have been attacked. So one of the things Parliament of World Religion has launched is called Faith Against Hate. So all faith people is standing up against hate of all form, whether it's religious or non-religious or secular and whatnot. And it's a big campaign. I'm looking for some people in the great nation of India who develop a campaign of that nature, that not only we talk nice, not only we say we all religion preach the same thing, but at the same time, people of faith stand together, hand in hand, and work with each other to counter that hate through that loving seva and their loving faith. Are you with me? Another point connected with it is hate is not only in the world, it's in America as well. President Obama, according to Secret Service, received 300% more death threats than President Bush did. 21 million Americans have purchased guns just in last year. 21 million, and that's a legal purchase, so FBI knows this guy purchased the gun. Those who purchase without their approval, I don't know how many they are. Hate is rising in the world, my sisters and brothers, and that's the reason it is utterly important, extremely important, that we spare within our day some time and some money. That while hate is rising in the world, people of loving relationship, in that relationship rise up against that. Hindus among Hindus, Muslims among Muslims, Christians among Christians, Buddhists among Christians, Buddhists among Buddhists, all good and bad people, because that's connected with humanity. Sometimes we project our evil on the religion. Sometimes we hide behind a religion. And sometimes politicians use religion of destruction of this and destruction of that to raise people to start hating other people. So people of faith, we need to be smart. We need to be watchful. And now I come to my last point here. I always wonder, Indians know Parliament because of Swami Vivekananda. I don't know whether the world knows so much of Swami Vivekananda, but interfaith is rising. It has tripled in last 10 years in the world. Tripled. So now it's not only people of faith, but government after government are inviting us and sometimes insisting that I meet with them. And well, government of United States found out that I'm coming to India, they asked me to stop by in 2-3 other countries. So I didn't go for 3 countries. I have to get back to the US. I accepted to wherever my flight changes that I will speak in the embassy and talk about this. So government are putting money on this. Why? Because they are realizing the monster of violence which government unleashed, as we know in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, World War I, World War II, is not stopping there. Now everybody wants to be a monster of bombing and killing other people. So they are looking for faith community to develop social cohesion in the society. So people feel together. This is what governments are trying to do at this moment. Now again, people of faith need to be smart. Politicians sometimes want to take you for a ride on your good words too. So you need to remain in charge of your good words. Don't allow anybody to use or abuse or take advantage of it. This is a very important for the point I'm about to share. So India knows interfaith. I mention to you that I receive so many invitations almost every month. No other country sends so many invitations to the Parliament of the World Religions and its chair to come than India does. It means you know that. And I went on the Google and I realized you have 2 rupees to 5 rupees and whatnot of the stems about Swami Vivekananda also. And probably it may be now more price of each stem. So you know so much of it, but there are few ingredients missing. Few years ago, India applied that we like to do the World Parliament of Religions. Unfortunately, I was busy, I couldn't come, but about 5, 6 of our trustees came. They met people. And they realized one thing, that while India has so much enthusiasm for different faith and good wording and good charm, a strong interfaith entity does not exist. That's what they concluded. They say everything is good, but a strong interfaith entity. What do they mean by strong interfaith entity? They meant the following, that people of different faith who are truly representative of that entity, not that Muslims are picked up a couple of Hindus and couple of Jainas and Parsis they like. Not the Jaina, they want to do the whole show and they pick up one nice Maulana and one nice Pandit from here and Swamiji here and there, not this way. But people working with each other in good relationship, in full respect that they are representative, they are participant, they are sharing power of organizing with us. They are thinking together and organizing together. That type of entity didn't exist, and that reason, despite the money was being committed, the Parliament decided to go to Melbourne, Australia. So now that I have come, I was thinking, what is my message? Well, my bottom line message are 3. First, dear brothers and sisters, become good neighbor. There's nothing like being a good neighbor. Good neighbor doesn't mean a neighbor of your faith. Any neighbor is a good neighbor. And mixed neighborhoods are better neighborhood than the divided neighborhoods. So good neighbor, becoming a good neighbor is an important aspect. Second important thing is become a good citizen. Good citizens mean a good citizen is an active citizen. You support your government, but your government is doing something good about the cleanliness, about the poor people, about the peace, and you oppose your government. And when you are a good citizen, meaning you oppose your government when they divert too much money towards the bombs and this and the missiles and do this and all of that, that is not going well toward taking towards anywhere in the peace, my brothers and sisters. So good citizen meaning that you remain honorable nationalist. Honorable nationalist is a smart person, supports the good, opposes the bad. Otherwise, one angry general here in this country or another angry colonel in the other country got triggers on 200 bombs which can kill 20 million people the day and 2 billion eventually. This is not very far away scenario. The third thing which I like to request you after being good neighbor and good citizen is bring the Parliament of the world's religion to your country. And the board knows this. I'm a Pakistani. I'm born in Pakistan, although I spent most of my adult life in America. And I have been saying this to my board for a long period of time, that when you will liberate the Parliament of the world religions from what you call to be the first world, and when you're going to go to the rest of the world. And here's your opportunity. But you will have to work. Now, one of the decisions which I have insisted and we have adopted, instead of Parliament every 5 years, which it used to be, is going to be every 2 years. Why? Because interfaith is growing very fast. And second thing is that the Twitter generation doesn't know what happened 3 years ago. So 2 years is a big enough of a time frame, because Twitter didn't exist 5 years ago when we did the last parliament in Melbourne, Australia. So we need to do on a faster pace. So you have a choice of 27. We have a board meeting coming up August 30th and 31st. It has, so you can prepare something, and I have all those things ready to submit for that, or you can go for 2019. That's how the time frame. What they look for, 3 things. First thing they look, whether a good interfaith movement in which people are equal partner exists in a country or not. This is a prerequisite. Second, whether you have logistics. Normally we ask if you have hotel accommodation and a conference accommodation for 10,000 people, 500 parallel programs, and all that. By God, but if we do it in India, maybe 30,000 of you will show up. If 10,000 people coming from outside. So for that reason, you need a huge accommodation in hotels and the conference facilities and all that. I think you can manage that with so many architects and so many engineers working on it. The third thing is how you're going to fund it. We don't want it to be a government event or political event. Politicians are welcome to participate. It has to be people's event. It has to be people of faith, people of loving relationship, working with each other. That's how it should come out. At the end, I would like to thank you once again. At the Parliament, there are going to be many, many things. And for young people, I want you to know that I have made a special arrangement and insisted on my board. My board adopted that the registration for young people who are college going is, and a particular age group, is almost 1/5, if I remember correctly, of the whole registration. Similarly, there are scholarships available for them, younger people. So at this moment, almost 20% of all people who are coming are young people. Because young people are amazing people. In America, you know who opposes the war, number one? These are young people who stand against war. Who stands up for the humanity of other being? Number one, according to survey, are young people. So their heart is already there. All Swamis and Maulanas need to do is give them a space. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.